Good afternoon, everybody. Back to another phenomenal segment of OITVOIP's Partner First webinar series with the best host of the duo. Again, not to mention anybody that rhymes with the word Bay, but the way better host. Thank you all for attending. We have a great next 45 to 55 minutes, however long it takes us, maybe even 2 hours if it's necessary. But we have a great guest, a great talking point, a great speaking point that we're going to go over. Something we hear often from MSPs: how to grow their business, how to be effective, efficient. I hear it daily. We hear it every single day, actually, about 5,000 times a day if you're on any of the MSP groups. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest. This is the Chief Customer Experience Officer, Alex Farling. Welcome, Alex.
How you doing, Sean?
Doing great. Chief Customer Experience Officer, that's like a long title. Do you
It
put
is.
that
We
like
long. We like to take long, complicated things, and well, actually, we like to take them and make them simple. So, it's CCXO is really what we put it everywhere because I don't type that well. Way more.
XO.
Yeah.
I love that. That's, you put that like MD, PhD.
You know, all the alphabet soup. You know, I just put a whole bunch of letters and let people wonder what it means.
So thank you for joining. Totally excited about having you on. We had you on what, over a year ago?
It's been a while. It was right after we launched.
Yeah, like you're one of our first Partner First webinars, I think.
I think we were the first or second. It was early on, and
yes.
Yeah, it was right after IT Nation when we went live at IT Nation 2019, and of course then the whole world shut down and real trade shows didn't happen anymore, and everything kind of disappeared. So we came and did forums like this, and we've been doing it ever since.
Absolutely. So how much has changed from, because I remember IT Nation.
Yeah.
How much has changed for you guys as a company from then to now?
Oh, as a company, I was going to say I drink less, but that's probably not a case either. You know, a lot's changed as a company. We've evolved a ton. We've done a ton of development. Our developers continue to impress me. They have 4 or 5 rolling releases a month sometimes, with new feature adds and new components. But the big thing has just been the partner growth and the partner acceptance of us. We've just got a raving fan base that says amazing things about us and follows us around social media and cheerleads for us. So it took us, 11 months to add our first 100 customers, and then we doubled the size of the company in 4 months. And now we're on pace to do it again in just a matter of a couple of months. So we're just rocking and rolling, all good things. And now it's just about keeping our customers happy and continuing to do what we do.
That's congrats. First off, that's amazing. Especially in this climate from last year to now, even.
Yeah.
I think that this is a great place to be in a conversation about what we're about to do today. Let's talk about that growth expectation, how to grow, how to be organized, efficient, and still see results, which is your whole concept.
It is. And the climate is interesting too, because, before everybody said my clients don't want to meet with me, it was just a BS head game excuse. Like that was head trash back then. Today, it's a real thing. Your client doesn't want to meet with you because he's not in his office. You're not in your office. 2 years ago, you could just go knock on your client's door if you wanted to talk to him. For a lot of folks, that's not the case today, but also their business has changed a ton, right? Everybody's working from home. Life is different. Their clients have gone through turmoil and change and all these other things. So meeting with them is more important than ever, or at least keeping them up to speed is more important than ever. New products and services, making sure they're adjusting to cybersecurity and what it's done with COVID. All of that's very important, and that's all part of the sales process. So. Absolutely.
So, well, I think probably that's probably a good segue into actually, let's start talking about what you're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's we'll get your presentation deck up here for you to highlight a few points.
Yeah.
There you go. So very curious, the title, From Sales to Happy Customers. Maybe you want to elaborate a bit on this.
Sure. Well, we like to talk about the fact that your sales pitch really, while it's your first intro to your customer and to giving them a view into what it's like to work with you, to build that relationship, it's also really just the beginning of a cyclical approach of meeting with your customer, identifying what's broken, where pain or risk is exposed, and helping them know that you can fix it. And so many MSPs believe in their head that they're a bad salesperson or that they can't sell, and they don't realize that they sell all day, every day. Every time they come to a customer with a solution to a problem, they're selling the customer on why that's the right solution and why they should do it. So we kind of wanted to just talk through sales from zero, but how it kind of builds what your customer experience will be all along as you go, over time with the customer.
Awesome. So, and when we talk about sales to happy customer, are we only referring to your existing customers, or are we talking about net new customers or opportunities you're working on?
No, I think it really starts with the opportunity that you're working on, because, there's a lot of folks who will repeat this over and over, and I think I'm becoming one of them. Our customers don't understand what we sell them, so they buy on relationship. That relationship starts with your prospects. If they don't believe that they can build a relationship with you, or if they don't like you enough to have a relationship with you, they're never going to buy from you. So this starts with that prospect. It starts with sales, and even with a little bit of that pre-sales and marketing stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So if you want to dig into this deck a little bit.
Sure. I think the first thing we want to talk about is just that, we're seeing a shift in the industry. We touched on it earlier, that just COVID has changed some things. We have a lot more employees operating outside of those corporate networks, and bad actors have pivoted so that they're addressing and delivering malware and malicious payloads differently to try and get into people, into systems that are further outside of the network to work their way back in. So what we're seeing is that cybersecurity is becoming more and more important. And because of that, more and more companies are starting to say they're going to spend less on traditional managed services, and they're actually going to spend more money overall, but that money is going to be on the higher end and the newer add-on services that come along with having an MSSP offering or a cybersecurity solution offering. So there's a big change in what our customers are doing. And if we just keep offering the services that we were offering, the market's going to leave us behind. So we need to continue selling better new solutions to prospects, and we need to readdress our old customers and make sure that we're delivering them the right products and solutions to address today's problems, not just yesterday's problems.
So it's safe to say it's important for the MSP to be completely organized and knowing what their customers have and don't have, and what they need to be successful, provide the solution, whether it's their own service or a third-party offering of some sort.
Yeah, if we're not reviewing this on a regular basis, how much of your solution stack have your customers adopted, and what new products and services do they need to adopt, you've got yourself a problem. You have yourself exposed the ability for somebody else to come in and sell services to your client.
Absolutely. So actually, saw the CompTIA report. We did a partner first with CompTIA end of last year, and they were showcasing the fact of what an MSP is consistent of. How many different things they provide. I think there were about, not aside from the managed services, but everything from cybersecurity to VoIP to whatever it is, there were probably about 15 or 16 different line items.
And I think that's probably on the light number today. When you really think about all the different cyber offerings that everybody's tacking on, it could be upwards of 20 or 25. There's probably 5 just related to email by the time you get to email archiving and backups of cloud services and email encryption, multi-factor authentication solutions. The numbers through the roof.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and that's a great stat, by the way. Thank you for giving that to us.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what.
Yeah. So, what we're really considering, and you brought this up a little bit before, MSPs need some sort of an internal process. They need to standardize on what exactly it is they're trying to do and what they're trying to deliver to their customers. They need to build themselves a method, and they need to have a tool that takes them through what it looks like to be successful in selling these products and services across all of their customers. The stat that we keep hearing is that the average MSP has about 30% MRR left on the table inside their current clients. So if they have a tool that helps them root that out and that helps them present the variances to those clients, show them where they've got risk and exposure because they haven't taken your full solution, you're definitely going to tap into some of that 30% of missed revenues.
Sure. So, and just to unpack that a little bit, standardize. When we talk about standardize, we're talking about standardizing the MSP's process along with standardizing the offering and solution to the customer.
Yeah, we have a lot of MSPs that, number one, they might be tracking on a spreadsheet who has what, but a lot of them just don't know. They've got a combination of products in ConnectWise. Some customers have part of a solution. Other customers, depending on how long they've been a client, might be on the legacy plan, and I throw that in air quotes because the legacy plan really means the plan that has all the risk and exposure in it because we haven't backfilled it with the products and services that they need. And so they need a way to actually report on who has what and where your opportunity is to go sell additional services into those customers.
Awesome. And then I guess that actually just lends itself to a straight path to success.
Once once you know what's there, you identify what you need to fill the gaps, and you should be able to build the same presentation multiple times and just deliver the exact same thing to all of your clients. It's really just a game of a few moving parts of, identify the 3 or 4 things this client's missing, go make a presentation that reminds them of why they need these things. Next client, a couple different things missing, go make a slightly different presentation, but all very similar in how we can clean up risk and exposure, leave them in a better place, with just a little bit of consultative selling. And that's where we like to guide MSPs, because they've been in the channel so long and they've seen so many. And you and I are both salespeople in the channel, but we've seen so many bad salespeople in the channel, right? Who are just they give sales is a dirty word to some of these MSPs because of all the cold calls they get, I haven't owned an MSP for 6 months, and I got a call from a vendor who left me a voicemail, who I canceled my contract with them 6 months ago, wanting to sell me more products and services, thinking that I was still a customer, right?
Nice.
We've seen so many mismanaged customer relationships as MSPs that we don't want to be that guy to our customers. So we've got to find a way to present in a fashion that doesn't make us come off as the slimy sales guy, but it's really just, I'm that consultative chief information officer who wants to help you make sure you don't have gaps in your security.
So I would say I'm not in sales anymore. I am in relationship building and solution providing.
Yeah, I mean, we can spin it any way we want. But our job is to increase revenue, which to me is sales. I just want MSPs to not feel like anytime somebody says sales is a dirty word.
Right. I would agree. We hear that often. Not mentioning names, but Keith Nelson, and also
that guy. I don't know whether Keith is underhandedly or silently one of the best salespeople I've ever met and just doesn't know it, or whether he's just modest and mocking us all at the same time, or if there's some combination of both, because I know Keith is a very good salesman. He just likes to play dumb.
Well, I think I've heard him say, I just closed, $2 million for the quarter.
Right.
He's like, I don't know how I do it. It's magical.
Before lunch on Tuesday. Yeah.
He has magic beans, beanstalk, and butter. I mean, and maybe it's the beer.
To be clear, this webinar is for everyone who is not that guy. Just saying.
Although
for the 2 of you out there that applies to, if there is a second Keith Nelson, wait, is that you? Are you the second Keith Nelson?
He did say, we were on the Everything MSP call the other day, and he ended it with, they actually went into this conversation about presentation.
Yep.
He said that he feels like when he goes into the meeting, he's not doing the right presentation and the way, and I mean, which after he does the assessment. So I think that's I think it's something we'll probably touch on here and more depth. Yeah. That'll be great for him. And many people agree with him.
And we can kind of pivot into that from here. I mean, one of the big questions is, how do we get sales right? We see it. We see that on the forums. We see it on Facebook. We see it in Reddit. We see it every place that MSPs are communicating. It's, I don't know how to sell. And yet we have these processes in place for every other thing we do at our MSP. It's very similar. We do a discovery, we do an assessment, we report on it, we remediate it, and we verify that what we remediated works, right? Cybersecurity 101, computer technology 101, discover, assess, report, remediate, and verify. Well, guess what? We turn that into a sales process.
Yeah.
Brand new customer. I don't know you from Adam. I'm going to go out and discover. I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to send an engineer out to do a network assessment. We're going to really collect all the information that we have. We're going to compile it together into a report. We're going to go back to the customer and explain to them why we think that we have the right solution for them. Right between report and remediate, we're delivering to that customer going, hey, here's my price. Here's all the business pain I can solve for. Remediate, verify, and start all over again at your first quarterly business review. So the how really just becomes this repeating circle of quarterly business review. And your sales pitch is just an intro to what it's like to work with you for the next 20 years.
Yeah. I think that's the first presentation. The first presentation is when I meet you on day one. You had an interest. If I show up and I'm not prepared, or I don't show any kind of interest, then chances are the company itself that you're going to buy from won't show an interest also. Absolutely.
And I think too many MSPs try and do this without process. And the thing is, your actual business review needs to be your actual sales pitch and your sales process needs to be a documented process in your organization that you review after every sale. If you go back after every sale and look at your process and say, where did we succeed? Okay, continue to do that. Where did we fall short? Where did we not? Where did we miss the mark? Okay, stop doing that. There's a very intelligent author out there who keeps saying, and I think it's a Jim Collins quote. Your stop doing list needs to be longer than your start doing list, right? In sales, we all have bad habits. We all need to find those, root them out, and just stop doing them. And
Absolutely.
then build on the processes that work, build on the habits that work. Stop mailing in the quote. I just talked to an MSP yesterday who's crashed seven sales deals in a row because because of COVID, they fell into the habit of mailing in the quote. These are basic fundamentals. We know better. And if we really step back and review the process, we'd see every time I mail in the quote, I don't get the deal. And as an MSP owner, I can tell you 100% of the time, when I mailed in a quote, when I deviated from my own process, 100% of the time, I didn't close the deal.
Which is obviously a bad habit to take, but it shows a lack of involvement.
Yeah. And as MSP owners, it's easy to get busy and go, oh, I'm busy. I'll just send this one over. It was we had a good talk. I'm sure they'll buy from me. Send, go. And then what do you wind up in? You wind up in that chase mentality where now they have your quote and they don't have to answer your call. You don't have the ability to sit down with them and go, do you want to do business with me? Are we the right fit? You never get to have that conversation.
Absolutely. Good points. Also, Ray is on here, of course, watching us, and he made sure to point out that Keith is my dad. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the beard has to come from somewhere, but I think you got a little work to do yet.
Anyway, so let's move. We keep moving on now.
Yeah.
We're done with Ray for now.
So talking to that end, though, we talked about how that the sales presentation really is the beginning of the relationship with the customer. And we really built our platform around, once you've made that first presentation to the customer, setting the expectation that moving forward, you're going to continue to deliver to them a real strategic business review. We use the phrase QBR because the entire industry uses it, but I hate this term. If you're not going to do it quarterly, don't call it a quarterly business review. And I don't believe any MSP should be meeting with every one of their customers quarterly. It's a fallacy that every customer has the exact same need and warrants or deserves your quarterly attention.
What's the suggested frequency then?
Well, I think it depends on the MSP. So if you're a large MSP with a lot of large clients, you might be meeting with them monthly. Right. If you're a typical MSP who has 20% of your customers are really 60 or 70% of your value, then maybe those customers are monthly. And maybe the mid-range of your customers are quarterly or semi-annual. And you might have some customers on the bottom end that are your $750, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month customers that you might only meet with once a year. But at the end of the day, it has to make sense to you financially to put the time into a business review. The number one reason business reviews don't get done behind I don't know how is it's not profitable to me. I didn't budget it. I don't have the resources to put into it. We just never get to it. We don't get to it because you didn't build your contract around, I need 3 hours of QBR time for this customer or business review time for this customer every year. And if you've built it in, you can afford to pay somebody to do the work. If you haven't, and you're just trying to figure out how to meet with somebody 4 times a year because you pulled some random stat off of a vendor-led website that said this is how much you should charge for managed services, and you went and rolled it out and your costs don't fit, you can't do it. So I would say you've got to build into your budget, into your agreement, a certain amount of time for account management, for BCIO services, for these kind of business reviews, so that you can actually make time to get them done and get them done right.
So there's a question: what do you go over in a monthly meeting?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. When we start with customers, they're usually talking about trouble tickets and backup stats and all these what I like to term tactical issues. There'll be a ticket issues list, and we want to talk about our SLAs. I throw all that out the window. I think it ought to be forward-looking. I think it ought to be strategic. The 2 primary documents that we review or that we recommend our partners review with a customer in a QBR is the risk assessment. So this is where we determine where the client aligns with the industry best practices and where they deviate from our best build out of that best practices, and the budget, right? Because all of that is forward-looking. If we're talking about the budget, we're talking about bigger strategy items, and we're actually delivering value to our customer instead of talking about, did we respond to a ticket in enough time? We've got a mutual partner. In fact, Kevin Elsing well. He made the comment on one of our calls that an SLA is literally renamed in his company the service level argument because nobody ever brings up SLA when everybody's happy.
Right.
So if you're talking about SLAs, you're headed towards the service level argument. You need to pivot that conversation into future forward-looking things. In fact, we really like to have our customers send out an agenda for their business review ahead of time And if you get back any of those tactical things, if it could have been a ticket or an email or a phone call, just deal with it right then, right? I'm upset with how Sally dealt with Billy on a ticket last week. Hey, you know what? Our QBR isn't for 2 weeks. I'm going to pick up the phone. Mr. Customer, your satisfaction is too important for me to wait. Let's deal with this customer service issue, the CSAT issue right now and get it fixed. If I need to go spank a technician or if I need to do something extra for this user to make sure they're functional, we'll do that right now. Guess what? By the time I get back to that business review, they love me because I just fixed their problem. I interjected on their behalf, fought with the help desk. I was the good guy, good cop, bad cop stuff, whatever, but they're happy. And now we can talk about forward-looking strategic things, and we've cleared the deck of the things that are going to turn that business review into a bitch session.
So are you talking, so one's reactive and one is proactive, right? The reactive is there's an issue, let's go fix this, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
Proactive. Yeah. And it goes back to whether it's a monthly, quarterly, semi-annually review, whatever it's going to be, shouldn't that be set with intent as far as like the proactiveness and saying, here's the agenda, here's the expectation, we're going to cover A, B, and C?
Absolutely. And when we close a new deal with our partners, when they sell a brand new customer, they make a mini presentation to that customer at that time. They might not have enough info to do a budget. Their risk assessment might have been 30 or 40 questions instead of 140. But they can sit there at the end of that meeting with the customer and say, what it looks like to work with me over time is that we're going to have this relationship. We're going to have these conversations, but on a deeper level, 2 times a year or 4 times a year or whatever. And you can set that expectation early, let the customer know what you're going to deliver to those, and just start to build that right from the beginning of the relationship. If you tell somebody you start dating, hey, on day 1, you and I are we're gonna meet 3 days a week, we're gonna go out, we're gonna have our quality time. Guess what? They expect from day 1 to be with you 3 days a week and to spend that time with you. If you tell them I'm only gonna see you once a month, guess what? They get to decide whether or not they get to do business with, they want to do business with you or be in that relationship with you based on how much of your quality time you're gonna get. This is no different.
No,
so set that expectation early.
The expectation isn't about time though, it should be about deliverables too, right?
It's absolutely about deliverables, but it's also about reminding your customer that there's a cadence that matters. And the biggest complaint or one of the big complaints that MSPs have is my customers don't want to show up for these meetings. Well, it's because you've been inconsistent about them. You haven't done them on the regular, and you didn't deliver the right value when you did it. So you have to be consistent, and they have to be consistent, and you have to deliver value when you do it. Those are the keys to getting your customers to come back.
That's a great point. So also, here's another question, by the way. When doing QBRs, who should be doing them?
I think it depends on the MSP. If you're a small MSP, sub $1 million, I think the owner can do them all. I think you get very quickly to a place at $750,000 to $1 million where account management starts to make sense. And I'm sure the chat will blow up with arguments to that in just a minute. Because a lot of folks say, hey, at $750,000, there's not money for an account manager. And I would respond to that with, if your account manager is not making you money, you're doing it wrong. So at $750,000, you should be able to hire yourself an account manager. You should be able to pay them a decent salary, and they should be able to pay that salary in triplicate without a problem.
Takeaway title, then we're talking about job responsibility. Would it be the salesperson, the person responsible for doing sales and relationship?
Small MSP, yes. Larger MSP, I think you're going to differentiate that, right? You're going to have your hunters, and these are your farmers or your inside sales folks are the ones out here doing this account management role. And the bigger and the more advanced the customer, they may be very well shadowed or accompanied by a VCIO who doesn't really carry a quota or have a sales goal, but who is that strategic front to the company.
Perfect. Okay.
It's a combination of relationship management and that VCIO role.
Another question here. Do you cover tickets in these reviews?
Never.
Why?
Is that a succinct enough answer? If you're covering tickets, it's because there's a problem. And if you have a problem that is that tactical, it's likely not strategic. When I owned my MSP, my biggest customer was at this point, I think they were like 18 or 20% of my revenue. And I went to meet with them, and they had the CEO, the CFO, the director of operations, an HR person, and then like 4 other department heads all in this room. And I'm looking around this room, and I sat there and did the math one day and went, and I had a Sandler sales coach at the time. And the Sandler sales coach says, you need to know how expensive that room is. And I sat there and did the math, and it was an $800 an hour room for the people that were in that room. Do you have a single sales ticket that warrants an $800 an hour room, or is that something that you can take off and sidebar with your point of contact at that customer, or even maybe with the CEO if it really went sideways and you need to talk through it? I have never, in my time in 16 and a half years as an MSP, I don't recall a lot of tickets that warranted an $800 room.
Sure.
So if you want to bring the right people if you want your customer to bring the right people to the table, you have to deliver that kind of value back to them. So my goal was, if I've got an $800 room, I better deliver $800 an hour in value to that meeting. Tickets don't deliver that kind of value.
Is it so? And let's look a little higher in that though. Yeah, don't talk about. So what you're saying is don't talk about specific ticket issues, right? Obviously, that's not what you do. However, if it ends up becoming if that's part of one of the deliverables is the increased velocity in response to tickets, then you would cover that in that meeting, saying, "Hey,
absolutely,
steps we're taking to ensure that we answer you within X amount of time." Moving on.
Absolutely. Okay. You know, there are larger overall issues that you can address without diving into specific tickets. I would hope that MSPs aren't getting into a place where they're not meeting their SLAs. I would say the MSPs who have their act together on the operation side and on the sales and account management side are likely also MSPs who have service delivery dialed in and don't have a ton of these kind of problems. In my experience, these MSPs that are having tickets come up at QBRs, it's because it's the same type of tickets over and over and over. And that generally relates back to why old equipment, not following my best practices. All my folks use Sentinel-1 and you're still on McAfee. I was too nice to not tell you to throw away that cheap firewall you have and deploy my best practice firewall. There's some sort of a supportability issue there that really goes back to alignment that you can discuss through risk and alignment without having to get into service delivery, right? It's creating a service delivery issue, but service delivery issues often are a sign of something else wrong.
Sure. Thanks for that. Thanks for elaborating.
Yeah.
So let's move on to let's keep moving on because we're getting more questions by the minute actually. So I don't want to.
Sure. So that's good. We'll get to them all.
And nobody's argued. By the way, nobody has argued what you said about who should present this. By the way,
well, that's unique. I almost always get an argument on that one, but it's a worthwhile discussion.
We'll give Ray a minute. Ray might now step.
So there's a good conversation to have about where to start with this sales and business review process, especially if you're a small MSP. Back to the stat that there's 30% or so MRR buried in your existing client base. I'm working with one client who literally was kind of plateaued in his business. He's got 4 employees at a small MSP. He hadn't grown his revenue in about 3 to 4 years. He signed on with us. We brought him out. We prepped him to go meet with his first client. He went to meet with the client. He gave him a gargantuan project that he never thought they would approve all of. So he presented it in little bite-sized pieces. And at the end, he messaged me afterwards and said, everything went great in my presentation, but I got stuck. I said, what do you mean you got stuck? I thought you were prepared. Like, we talked through this. I thought you had it dialed in. He says, yeah. And like right as I was closing up, they just looked at me and said, let's do it. And I didn't know what to do. I said, what do you mean you didn't know what to do? I hope you figured out how to send him an invoice. He says, yeah, but that was after I figured out they meant let's do it all. And so this customer signed up for like a $60,000 or $80,000 project. I forget what the exact number was, and increased their MRR with him, when it went all in on everything that he presented. And since then, that gave him enough of a confidence boost to go out and close a new lead. And we brought the new lead back. His senior tech took a look at him and said, I've been working for you for 4 years, and I want you to know this is the first new customer we've ever closed. And doing that a week after that big deal that you closed, with this other customer, I feel like I'm working at a whole new place. This is awesome. I can't wait to see what happens. So like there is something to be said for just going out there, dialing in the process and getting it done. You'll generate project sales, you'll generate revenue, and if you commit to the project process, it will just become a self-feeding machine. It'll, account management will pay for itself. It will feed your professional services staff. It'll cause you to grow, which will cause you to need more account managers who will pay for themselves, who will feed more professional services staff. It is one of the best things you can do for your company. But when you're small, those account managers can also deal with any sales and marketing leads that come in, because now they know exactly what it's like to work with your customers. They have the process. They can go out and give us a sales pitch just as easy as they can go out and give a business review.
Sure. So, but let's talk about that. One thing that we see often that hinders production is velocity in getting quotes, presentations to close the deal.
Yeah.
That's and plain devil's advocate, I know that when you're an MSP, a lot of times because you don't know what all the moving parts are, it's kind of a slow play for them before they actually present. And even when it comes time to present, they don't always put the best thing together. So how do you fix that?
Well, and that's where systems come into place, right? We've built a system that I like for doing all of this work. I think it's a great way to do it. But even if you don't use us, find yourself a repeatable system, right? Develop a way that you can do the same thing twice in a row with a little bit of automation. When I owned my MSP, there was a sign over my desk that said, if you have to do it twice, automate it. Guess what? if you don't suck at being an MSP, you're going to have to do sales more than once. The hope is that you can find some way to automate it, use some tools, develop a presentation that you can give more than once in a row. Because the other thing is, the only way you get better at it is to practice it. Do it
Yeah,
once.
but you don't understand my customers, Alex. My customers are different in my area.
I'm sure they are. That's what. If I had $1 for everybody who said that, I wouldn't need to work and I wouldn't be here on this webinar with you. All customers are the same. None of them understand technology. They're all buying from you because they trust you, because they feel like you are someone they could have a relationship with. That's why they make this technology decision. So, you don't understand my customers as a load of crap because somebody across the street selling them while you're losing.
Couldn't agree more.
I know you were just playing devil's advocate there.
I love it.
So we'll move on from there. Lifecycle Insights, we founded this because I owned an MSP. I was stuck. I had two different kinds of account managers at my MSP. I had a former technician who flunked out as a technician, but it was a great guy. My clients loved him. He fit in as account manager, but I couldn't get him to stop talking technical. And then I had a non-technical account manager who was fantastic, but couldn't talk tech if she had to. And I needed to give them both, I don't want to say training wheels, but I really needed to give them both the training wheels to go deliver the same thing the same way, regardless of their background, their history, their knowledge, and where they were coming from. So we designed a tool that let us go give sales pitches and business reviews in a fashion that was simple, straightforward, had stripped out all the nerd words. We didn't talk about flux capacitors and gigabytes anymore. We just talked about risk, age, lifecycle management, and addressing things from a business operations standpoint instead of from a technology standpoint. And that's what's given us the ability. It gave me the ability to really focus on this full time because it's doing so well. Just to help MSPs build that sales book and continue to tighten up their business, get all their clients in that coveted supportable configuration so that everybody's built the same way.
Sure. Question 2 now. That's let me put in there. Do you recommend account managers that do reviews and other account management, or dedicated review people?
I think that's a tough question. It depends on your size. I think typically your account manager should be the same one doing the review. I don't know of an MSP that has people dedicated just to doing the business reviews, because this is about relationship, and you can't have the relationship if I only meet with you twice a year. That account manager or customer advocate really should be the one giving the review. Again, the larger the MSP and the more complex or the more technical the MSP, the more technical the clients, the more likely you are to have that BCIO coming in. I still think that account manager should be there for the relationship, but the bigger the situation, the more likely you are to have that BCIO coming in and taking over a part of that role.
Got it. So we're now getting questions on, where's the data come from, and is there a portal? Yep. So I think it's probably a good segue into, we do want to do product demos. So maybe now we can show the ease of use of working within your product.
Let me see if I can figure out the share here. All these new tools.
Simon, you were the one who's supposed to take care of that.
I had it till I had to switch tabs. Okay, let's not bring the whipping boy on. Poor Simon. All right, so this is Lifecycle Insights for those of you who haven't seen it yet. And I'll do a quick refresh just to make sure I'm still logged in, 40 minutes later. But so Lifecycle Insights is designed around integrations. Again, the sign over my desk, if you have to do it twice, automate it. We knew we already had a lot of data in Datto, in ConnectWise, in IT Glue, in Synchro, those types of products. So the top row is where our primary integrations come from. We pull in your assets, we pull in all that information, your users' assets, those kinds of things. We will match your users up to Microsoft 365 users so that we can match Microsoft licensing and login information to those same humans that exist in ConnectWise and IT Glue as your customers. Then we will improve your information by building on it with warranty lookups for Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Microsoft Surface. And you can see also marked with a beta tag, we've got Cisco, SmartNet, and Meraki. Both of those are fully functional. Devs still
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I don't see OITVOIP on this.
Well, there are only so many hours in the day, but we will work on that one.
Well, everybody, thank you for attending the webinar. It was good talking to you all.
We'll add it to the wish list. We don't integrate with any VoIP companies today, but I will tell you this: if the OIT or if the MSP is tracking their VoIP phones in ConnectWise, we'll have the phones, we'll have the purchase data, and we'll be able to manage those assets. So that actually is a great dovetail into what we do with the assets once we get them. And down here, you'll see your phones. So we build a default for all of your for all of your asset types. So you keep a server for 60 months. We change it from red or from green to yellow on our asset list when it has 24 months left of life. It goes to red when it's beyond 60 months. We do the same with every other type of asset. Of course, phones are super high technical, really crazy, important to keep up to date. So our OITVOIP phones get replaced every 48 months. We can't let those go to 60 months. Those are more important.
Yes, actually, Ray just pointed out that they definitely have a life cycle.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Ray.
So you can the point of the phone being different is that you can customize this, and you can even customize it for the company. So when you have that very thrifty nonprofit who doesn't want to replace things at the same frequency, or that really spendy engineering firm that needs to replace machines more often, you can customize it to the customer's needs there.
So
we also give a replacement cost.
Who would be in this platform?
So the MSP as a group as a leadership team is going to set the defaults of some of these global settings and everything, but then your account managers are going to live in here, right? They're the ones who are going to come in here. They're going to look at the info that's come over from the PSA. They're going to be sorting through this data and saying, hey, look, I've got Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 assets still in my environment, or hey, I've got this many beyond end of life assets at this particular customer, and a certain number of workstations that we just need to get replaced because this customer hasn't kept up. Look, I've got a 12.6-year-old workstation. This is the key data that account manager is going to be communicating to their customer on a regular basis, and we make it easy for them to sort and filter, as you've seen me kind of playing on the screen here, and then dump it all to a Word document that's customer presentable, or screen grab it to a PowerPoint that they use to present in these these unprecedented times. Is that what that is?
Oh, that's not good. Wrong show.
Wrong show. My bad. They all blend together today.
So question over.
Yeah.
Ask a couple questions here. One is, so the account managers are, whether you have 1 or 5 account managers are relevant. Are they able to segment based off of their patch of customers?
Absolutely.
Have aggregated reports and also get alerts and notifications on what they need to do.
So alerts and notifications is something that we're continuing to add to the platform. Today, it's a pretty standardized scheduler that will show you how often you're supposed to meet with a customer based on how you've segmented them. So if you've said, hey, this is an annual customer or a semi-annual or even a monthly customer, we'll show you how often you're supposed to meet with that customer. And then we have a place for you to document those meetings as you go through and keep track of action items, anything that you want to look at next time. You can go back and review your notes for the last time. There are some alerts that are going to be coming in the creation of some ConnectWise tickets and things like that in the very near future. So keep an eye out for that.
And the information, so notes, I can keep notes in here, just like a CRM.
Correct. This becomes a little mini CRM.
This will be pushed over to my PSA.
These are going to push to PSA tickets, so that you can still live by, if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen, and then keep everything in one pane of glass. We're just using all the industry buzzwords today, or catchphrases. But it's really helpful for the account manager to be able to come in here and say, hey, when I met with these guys on 11/3, I had promised that we would do something extra for them. Now that I'm about to meet with them on 2/15, I got to make sure I did all those things I promised in previous meetings, or that they did for me the things they promised in the previous meetings. Maybe they were supposed to send me copies of their policy and procedure, or send me over some invoices so we could add them to the budget forecast, or whatever. We want to make sure that we use this. And now I don't have to go back and look at the last 6 ConnectWise tickets to make sure that I can see the stream of events that's happening with this client.
Awesome. And then, so if back to that efficiency of this, then account manager comes in day 1, each day, looks at this, sees who they're up for reviews, whatever. And then if they've done their job right and set expectations for the follow-up meeting, they're now going to send the agenda is going to be, hey, Alex, we're coming on the 3rd. And on the 3rd, we're going to discuss you do this. You guys have never purchased and you need to because of these reasons. And we're going to go over X.
Yep. So we're gonna cover your risk assessment and your budget forecast, and the risk assessment literally is a matter of pulling forward some items that we can see how the customer scored. Actually, we want this one, so we can see, hey, here's all the items that this customer has scored at risk in, and this customer has 74 risk assessments. So let's just look at one. But these are all the items that the customer has scored at risk in, And so we'll be able to cherry pick some of these that are the most important, put them on an agenda and say, Mr. Customer, we need to talk about a security project around network equipment, because I see you've got an internet security appliance, some switching, some intrusion detection prevention settings, and some VPN issues all wrapped up into kind of one project that we need to get resolved. So Mr. Customer, we're going to have a conversation when we meet about a network project that we need you to undertake for security and standardization reasons, as well as maybe some policy and procedures that we need to develop, because I see a lot of those down here in the yellow. So we can set that expectation. We can deliver it all with the reports that come out of Lifecycle Insights, and we can follow it all up with a budget forecast for the customer and essentially tell the customer, hey, look, here's your spend for the next 5 years. There aren't a lot of tools out there that can do this, but if you look, we can show them their spend for the next 5 years and highlight the cyclical every 5 or 6 years, oh shit year, where the budget goes up double or triple. And we can tell them about it early and often, so we're not the bad guy that knocks on the door January 1st and goes, here's a really big bill. I'm sorry. You're never the popular guy when you have to have that conversation. But we can also use the budget to help them plan projects, right? Because now we're forward looking. We know what the finances look like. If they have to do an out-of-band project that wasn't on the budget, at least we know when the cheap months or quarters or years are to fit those kind of things in, right?
So how do you know the budget, what their budget is?
So we've helped them build a budget over time. And this is one of the things that we talk about when we first meet, which is we're going to collect information from you. The asset list contains a replacement cost for every hard asset. So we know the end of life date, we know the cost. Cost goes on the budget on the end of life date, period, easy. We add some things to that budget from contracts and subscriptions and projects. So under contracts, this is where we're going to add things like, the OITVOIP bill. We know that's going to be $2 a user because OITVOIP is, that's not you guys, that's Grasshopper. Your quality voice system is going to cost you $25 a user, right? Your MSP services cost this much, but we also want to talk about things like line of business applications. We want to talk about, wireless renewals on like Meraki gear, things like that. If we have a couple of expensive agreements like copier agreements, leases, technology, anything related to technology, we want to pull it in, capture it here, and present it back to the customer on their budget. And there's two big advantages to that. Number one is now we're talking about more than just the bills that the customer is going to write to me at my MSP. We're talking about total cost of ownership for all of their technology. Because I present this, any new money they're going to talk about spending in IT, they need to tell me about it so we can fit it into the budget. Now I all of a sudden become the center of conversation around all their IT spending just because I'm capturing this information and presenting it back to them. But the other thing it gives me is a look at all the contracts. Now I know when the end dates are. Now I know when Verizon One Talk goes away, when that goes into that notification period. Now I know when I can walk into my customer and say, remember all the problems you had switching to work from home with that Malaysian tech support and all the miscommunications and that just all the drop balls in that project? Well, if you had our VoIP solution through our MSP, you could have called our help desk. And the same experience you had moving all your laptops to work from home, you would have gotten moving all your phones to work from home. And we would have had a much smoother experience. Why don't we just go ahead and make the change now that you're in that window? So by presenting a complete solution, I also get a complete sales picture and can encapsulate more of this revenue to myself to make sure that they're not buying from outside vendors. And then the other thing,
just want to throw in there that the freeze tag champion, Jonathan Crow, is watching. This is the first time. He said, now you are the source of truth. I mean, that's very ambiguous, but yes, absolutely.
It's not ambiguous at all. It's actually how we define the integration you should choose, right? Everybody comes to us and says, I have IT Glue and ConnectWise. Which one of those should I use to integrate my core data with? And we respond with whichever one of those you think is the most accurate source of truth for all your data, right? If you think your IT Glue data is better because your engineers only document switches in IT Glue, then use your IT Glue. But we consider that the source of truth. So Jonathan's playing on words from our previous webinars. I like it. He's playing a mental game there.
So
he's up in the game.
So we have about 9 minutes left here. So what I think would be beneficial is how easy is it to take all this information, put into a presentation, and get it to a customer? And how far out do you talk about this? How far is the planning too? Because I think you're talking about more than just the immediate, as you mentioned. You're talking about the future as well. So how does that go?
So typically we're planning. When I did it at my MSP, we were planning 6 quarters out. So we're planning very strategically 18 months out. We're doing some rough around the edges, what I call my wide angle guess planning 5 years down the road. So I always presented my budget forecast 2 ways, and I'll show you what it looks like to print that budget forecast 2 ways. I've already saved my favorite 2 settings for my budget forecast in here. It only takes a few seconds to dive in and configure this. So I'll actually do it manually just so you can see how long it takes. If I want to do a 6-quarter budget with all of my asset detail, I literally just check these check boxes, and here's my report, and I can print it. So now I've generated one of my favorite 2 budgets. To generate the other one, I'm going to go back and do it again manually just to show without any of the shortcuts and all the stuff that I've saved.
So if an MSP is working with a vendor that actually provides like sales and marketing content for them in a presentation deck, not to mention names, but just like OITVOIP does for our partner,
Yep.
could they take what you're doing here and throw it into a templated, full-fledged presentation?
Absolutely. And we have MSPs who have their presentation deck, whether it's something they got from Chartech or any of their other industry relationships, and they're using this kind of data in there. Just to show off this real quick, this is the risk assessment that we go through. So this is the longest part. This is the part I can't demo on here because it takes 45 minutes to an hour to answer a full risk assessment for a client. But if I were to go out and do one for a customer, we've already scored it. We're going to go ahead and print it. I'm just going to show you what it takes to generate the reports. And live on your webinar, we're going to generate all of our reports just to show MSPs how long this really takes. It works better when you actually click download.
I feel like I need my ShamWow and some sort
of. But wait, there's more. Call before the end of this webinar, and we'll double your purchase.
Exactly. Or like
all you pay is shipping and handling, right? So we generally don't present contracts specifically unless we're trying to actually collect more information. We might print this list just to show the customer, hey, here's a couple examples I filled in for you, but let's go ahead and pencil on the paper a couple of examples of what we would show. But so far, I pulled down a couple of budgets. I pulled down a risk assessment. I'm going to build a project for my customer just so that we have a project to talk about. So in this particular case, let's go look at these Windows 7 replacements. Let's just get rid of all those for the sake of our next meeting with our client. So we'll grab all of our Windows 7s and get rid of that server. So and we're going to generate a project from this.
How much time does a person save using this?
I've heard everything from, so we had MSPs when we started this that said that they were taking up to 8 hours to prep for a business review for their largest clients. I will tell you those same MSPs are today spending less than 2 hours. So it depends on what your investment is, but you should say 50 to 70% of the time you spend prepping for a QBR after the first one. The first one always takes a little bit of work to get you right and ready, because the data quality that comes over is a little suspect. And
considering that there is another, like based off if you're going to be quarterly or monthly or whatever, is there a set time to is there a set amount of time you see the MSPs allocate to this if they're doing it right without you guys involved? Are they allocating 25% or 30% of their month to this every month, or what does that look like?
Yeah, they're generally, the problem is they're generally, when they come find us, they're either allocating way too much time to it and they're having to spend it all. So they could be putting 10 hours a month into a customer to keep the data up to date and to keep them where they need to be, or they're not doing it at all because they don't know where to start. They can't possibly fathom spending that much time and still be profitable in a customer. So in a lot of cases, they're not doing it at all.
Right. Wow, that's what. And actually, Aaron Simpson, thank you, from The Simpsons. 8 hours, we take days to prepare.
Yeah. So what you see here, just while we were talking, I created a Windows 7 replacement project. I could always type in a friendly business description here, and go put a cost associated with what we're going to spend and heart and labor. And here is my project. But you notice we've brought all the red forward from the asset list to show them all the aged gear that we're going to replace. But we're also showing the risks that we found in our risk assessment right on the same page when we go to present this to our customer. So we're going to give them a one-page handout that basically says, here is with your project, here's exactly why we need you to spend this money. So it's no longer, hey, I've got to make Aaron Simpson's Maserati payment. No, we're doing this because there is risk and exposure in the environment that we need to resolve for, and make a better user experience, whatever that may be. So we've got a lot of and it looks like I grabbed the wrong template there while I was talking, but we're pulling all those things together when we build a project to give you one presentable piece that really makes a statement to your customer as to why we're I just moved too fast, I think. Now, there we go. There's my project. My demo environment gets a little bit too much stuff in it. But we're building all of this very, very quickly in the essence of saving you time, but also giving you the value to present to your customer, right? So now when we go to present this, we're going to have this single page report that shows all the pain that's going into the customer. But you just saw it. I mean, while we were talking in the background, I just went and created all the reports that we're going to need to deliver a risk assessment and all the supporting documentation. I'm going to grab the last two docs, which are just a user list and an asset list to show to my customer. This is what it looks like to generate all that info. There's some upfront data cleanup, and we do take a look at your data quality to show you whether your data is good or bad in ConnectWise. It's normally bad. If you're a LineGuard partner, it will be less bad, but we help you clean up that data quality. We help you identify the customers who have lax data and the customers whose data looks pretty good that you're really ready to go have a business review for. So
that seemed very difficult.
It was terrible. I could even do it and complete most of my sentences.
Luckily, I brought my beer.
I feel like I failed the plan. Nobody told me there was to be beer.
I was only cooking with the beer, as I mentioned. So
I think Marnie intentionally set me up and didn't tell me there was going to be beer.
I actually was on the agenda. Simon, please do a better job.
Simon.
I really don't appreciate. Thank you for nothing.
Coming to Tech Bar next time just to heckle Simon because he didn't let me have beer.
As you should. So again, obviously you had some of some of the information already prepped, but you're able to generate that report within a matter of. I mean, we started generating at what 1:52 Eastern,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
4 minutes later.
And I built the project while we were talking about it. Like that was I didn't type in the description, which would take another 3 minutes, but I can build a project that fast and bring in, items from my risk assessment to show, where the customer failed and actually bring forward some of those components of, and this is actually showing a comparative assessment, but I can actually pull over some individual aspects of that assessment and say, hey, in hardware, we're doing a project because you got a bunch of old hardware that's scoring very poorly on our risk assessment. We need to replace it. So I can attach that to a sale to help the customer understand why we're making these purchases.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Me from the sales side of things, I see this is very refreshing for me. To be able to do that and run a report, take all the specific requirements that are needed, and then actually go and sound like you actually invested time into this to provide a real solution for somebody instead of just selling. Again, we were talking about, Keith and magic beans. The fact is you don't want magic beans, and that's probably why Keith is so successful is because he's actually talking about the things he needs to talk about that are vital to the business.
Yeah, and one of the best compliments we've gotten since we've started working with our partners, we had a partner come back to us and say, one of my clients got a new CFO, and I was kind of scared because he came from a Fortune 500 company. He came to this good-sized local nonprofit, and I was kind of afraid to present to this guy because he had Fortune 500 IT that was presenting to him. And he says, when I got all done, the guy called me over and asked me to come talk to him in the hallway, and I thought I was in trouble. I thought I'd screwed up. And he says, the guy called me over just to give me a compliment. He says, never in my wildest dreams did I believe that at a small nonprofit this size, I would have IT support that could give me a 5-year budget because I couldn't get that out of my Fortune 500 guys.
That's amazing. That is awesome.
So it really raises the bar. It gives your customers a different view of your, of your services when you get to that level.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
And our goal is just to streamline that and make it easier for customers to get to that level because it shouldn't be hard. You already have all the data in your PSA. Which
is probably one of the most important things you could do is actually use your data because we all have a bunch of data that we never actually make actionable.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have 1 minute left here. By the way, I have a meeting with Ninja RMM after this. So it's nice to see that Jonathan and Ray and myself all be late to our meeting. So that's perfect.
Great guys.
Let's talk. I'd like to real quickly share our upcoming events and then we'll see a word and we'll get out of here. So upcoming. Oh my Lord. I'm glad this is such small print. I'm old, Simon.
And red on black, that's tough to read.
So, and then you just scrolled away from God knows what here. Don't do it, Simon.
Do it, Simon. Do it.
So actually, you know what? Yeah, do it, Simon. You know what, Simon? Let's do this, Simon. I'm going to say Simon. Simon says, what's coming up, Simon? Go ahead.
Okay, guys. So on 3/11, we just discussed it. We have the Ninja RMM MSP live chat guest appearance with Sean and Ray. It's going to be on recommendations for running virtual sales meetings. So you guys hop on that. We also have the Tech Bar St. Patrick's Day special. We have some special surprises for you guys on 3/11. That'll be with Tommy Wilson and Ben Van Hosen of Networks at Work. On 3/23, we have the MSP Mindshare Conquering Cloud Communications panel discussion featuring OITVOIP. And then on 3/25, we have our Tech Bar special with the Killing IT podcast. And April 8th, we also have the Tech Bar with Cameron Avery of Elastic Digital, which will be our first Australian guest on the Tech Bar. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be on YouTube.
All I'm saying is St. Patrick's Day, there's a requirement of Irish car bombs. I'm trying to educate Simon and Ray on this stuff. If you're going to watch, you better be prepared for that, because that's what we're doing. All right.
That makes me want to show up. I want to see Simon do an Irish car bomb.
So do I.
Just for not telling me I was allowed to have a beer today.
You have to be on youtube.com/OITVOIP.
There it is.
So, thank you, Alex. Seriously, this is great.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Any parting words?
You know, all I'm going to say is we love our partners. We look forward to working with them. If you guys want some help on this, don't feel like you can't reach out to me. We don't do pushy sales. As we've talked about this whole time, consultative selling is where it's at, and we eat, sleep, and breathe it. So if you need a hand with something, don't hesitate to reach out, even if you don't necessarily need our products. We're here to help the community.
Awesome. Thank you. My parting word is use this stuff and grow your freaking business and stop crying.
And free trial, right? If you're crying on Facebook because my customers don't want to come to QBRs, go check out the free trial, and we'll send you some tissues along with it. And fix your tears.
We actually had that listed forever on this banner. I know nobody saw that, but everybody should have seen it. However, try the free trial, apply it to your business, stop crying like Keith Nelson on about everything about sales. And thank you all for attending. This was great. Alex, I'll see you next Thursday.
I think we all have 2:00 stuff we're late for. So
exactly.
See you later.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.